Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Gibbs. In this video I'll be making this cowl neckline asymmetric top with low back. I'll be drafting the pattern first before transferring it to my fabric. At the top of the paper, I already have a straight line which is going to serve as my starting line or my shoulder line. Now I'll be taking my vertical measurements. From my shoulder line to my bust point is 10 inches. From my shoulder line to my waistline is 15 inches. Then from my shoulder to my hip point, that is my hip line, is 23 inches. So I'm going to mark the 23 inches, then I'm going to add extra 3 inches to the length of the top, making it 27 inches. So the full length of the top is 27 inches plus the stitching allowance. So I'm going to roll out all the dots on straight lines. Then I'm going to label them. The first one is my shoulder line, then my bust point, my waistline, and my hip line and the top length. From the center of the fabric on my shoulder line, I'm going to mark my shoulder measurement of 16 inches divided into 2. That's going to give me 8 inches. So I'm going to mark 8 inches there. From that 8 inches, I'm going to come down by 1 inch as my shoulder slope. For the width of my neckline, I'm going to be taking 3 inches, and I'll also take 3 inches for the depth, and I'm going to connect them together. Then I'm going to connect the shoulder slope to the neckline area like this. From the shoulder slope, I'm going to mark my round armhole measurement divided by 2, which is going to give me 8 inches. Then I'm going to find the midpoint of that armhole line by folding my tape into 2 equal parts, and I'm going to mark the center. Then I'm going to go in by half an inch from that midpoint. I'm going to extend the armhole line like this. Then I'm going to mark my bust measurements divided by 4 on that line. So I'm going to connect the half an inch to my shoulder slope like this. Then I'll connect it to the bust measurement I just marked on this line. So this is the armhole line for the front. So I already marked my bust circumference divided by 4. Then I'm going to add 2 inches stitching allowance to it. So my bust circumference is 34 inches. I'm going to mark the same thing on my bust point. Then on my waistline, I'm going to mark my waist measurement of 26 inches divided by 4 plus 2 inches stitching allowance. On my hip line, I'm going to mark my hip measurement divided by 4 plus 2 inches stitching allowance. I'm going to mark the same thing I have on my hip line on the top length, and I'm going to connect the dots together like this. Then I'm going to cut out the excess part of the paper. Ensure that if you are using a pattern paper, it's folded into 2 equal parts because of the asymmetric parts. Then I'm going to extend all these lines to the other side of the paper. Then I'm going to cut out the excess part of the paper again. For the cowl neckline, I want it to start falling from my chest line. So from the shoulder to my chest line is 7 inches. So I'm going to mark the 7 inches. Then I'm going to rule a straight line across the dots I marked to the center of the paper. That is where I want the cowl neck to fall from. So I'm going to split the line open towards the end of the paper. The center will give the top the falling effect when you spread it on your fabric. So I'm going to open the paper up like this. So you determine whether you want the asymmetric effect to be on the right or left part of your top. So for me, I'm going to do it this side. So from my waistline, I'm going to come down by 2 inches. Then from the other side of the paper, I'm going to come out by 4 inches. Then I'm going to connect the 2 points together like this. Then I'm going to cut out the excess part. Will not be needing this part for the top. So I'm going to fold my paper back into 2 equal parts to work on the pleating at the shoulder. So we are going to slash and spread at the shoulder. So I'm going to be marking 2 inches interval between them. So I just mark 2 inches here. I'm going to mark 2 inches at the other side. Then I'm going to leave what is remaining there. Then I'm going to extend the dot on a straight line. I'm going to extend the other dot as well. Then I'm going to split the lines open towards the end of the paper. So I went ahead to place the pattern paper on my fabric. My fabric is folded into 2. So I opened up the center by 8 inches. This to determine how your cowl neck is going to fall. You can extend yours. The spreading at the shoulder, the interval between them is 2.5 inches. So what I have here will be enough for the pleating. Then I'm going to extend the top length like this part that I cut out on the pattern, just going to extend it on a straight line so I'll be able to get the straight line while cutting it. I'm going to extend from the shoulder on a straight line to the center of the fabric like this. Then I'm going to trace the rest the same way. Then I'm going to cut out the excess part of the fabric. So if you don't understand what I'm saying, just look at the way I place the pattern on my fabric and arrange yours properly. So I'm going to notch the shoulder. Ensure you notch where the shoulder is on your fabric. Then I'm going to rule out a straight line at this point where the cowl neck opened up. I'm going to rule a straight line on my fabric. Please ensure you do that. So I went ahead to remove the cowl neck parts from the pattern because I will not be using it. So I'm going to detach the pattern from the fabric and this is what I have. So I'm going to proceed to the back. So I'll just quickly extend the line to the other side of the fabric. So I'm going to alter the neckline for the back. So you can choose to leave it this way if you want your back to be open. For mine, I'm going to extend these points to the bust points like this. So I'm just going to take my ruler and extend it to the bust points like this. Then I'm going to cut out the excess part from it. So this armhole area that is sharp is not supposed to be so I'm going to take my ruler again and blend it towards this way like this. Then I'm going to cut out that sharp edge from it. So this is what I have for the back. I'm going to use it to cut my fabric. So I've gone ahead to cut the fabric from the back. The fabric is folded into 2, so I'm not splitting the back open because I will not be adding a zipper to the back. So I'll ensure the 2 wrong side of my fabric are facing each other. If you want the two right sides of your fabric to face each other, ensure you do it that way. Don't mix it up, so that when you cut this asymmetric part, you will not end up making mistake by cutting to the front side. So you ensure the two right sides of your fabric or the two wrong sides of your fabric are facing each other. So I've arranged the front and the back fabric on each other. So I'm going to place this pattern on it to cut the asymmetric parts. So this is the reason I marked the line earlier on my fabric, so I know that where the line stop is where the back pattern is going to start from. So I'm going to arrange it properly from that line. I'll make sure the back doesn't exceed that line. Then I'm going to arrange the paper on it properly. Then I'm going to follow the shape of the paper after pinning it. After pinning the paper to the fabric, I'm going to follow the shape and cut that part out. This is what I have for the front and back. So I'm going to pleat the two shoulders. So I'm going to start from where I notched the shoulder earlier to the end. I'm going to run a gather stitch on this on my machine. So I'm going to take the fabric to my machine and run a gather stitch from that notched part to the end of the shoulder. So I've gone ahead to run the gather stitch. So I'm going to drag it to the length I want it, or to the width I want it to be. So I went ahead to make this two rope that I'll be adding to the shoulder, because there's a rope on the shoulder. So the width of this rope is 2 inches wide. So I'm going to drag this gather to make sure it's up to 2 inches. Then I'm going to sew it. I'm going to sew the shoulder, the gathered parts, to the rope, but I'll ensure it fits to the width of the rope, and that is how the shoulder is going to be. I'm going to do the same thing for the other side. I'm going to gather it to the 2 inches, then I'm going to sew the rope to it. So you can make your rope how long and how wide you want it. This is how I want mine to be. So this is what I have. I've gone ahead to join the rope to the fabric. So this is the lining I'll be using to turn it. So I cut out this lining earlier before I made the gather stitch. So I'm going to arrange I'm going to place the right side of my fabric on the right side of the lining piece. Then I'm going to arrange it properly and trim off the excess parts from it. Then I'm going to sew it round. You can see the lining piece or the facing is not long to the end of the fabric, so I'm just going to sew it to the length where it stops. I'm going to sew the armhole area. So I've gone ahead to turn this with the facing, and I turned it over to the right side and I ironed it flat. So make sure you iron it flat after turning it. So this is what I have. For the back piece, I went ahead to turn the neckline area with a facing also, and this is what the back is looking like. So I'm going to place the two right sides on each other like this. So I'm going to arrange them properly. So I'm going to close both sides of the fabric with my body measurements, my bust measurements, and my waist measurements. So I've gone ahead to close up both sides of the fabric, and this is what I have. So I'm going to be adding the zipper to the shorter part of the fabric. So I'm going to open it up to the end of the fabric. So if you are using a zip without a stopper, maybe you should just come down by 1 inch, stitch it, and then add your zipper to the side. Or if you have a zip with a stopper, then open everything up and add your zip to the side, so you'll be able to wear the top freely. Before adding the zipper to the top, ensure you hem the base of the top, hem it round before adding your zipper to it. So I'm going to be adding these two rope to the back. It's not necessary to do that. So this is the seam for the back. I'm going to stitch this rope to the seam. The seam on the other side and the seam on this side. I'm going to stitch the two ropes to it.